Sword Art Online was released on July 8th, 2012, and would later get an English dub July 28th, 2013. This was one of my first anime I watched by myself, since I would usually watch them with my older sister, those being Inuyasha and Yu-Gi-Oh! It was such an exciting experience. The whole premise is actually very interesting. Being trapped in a virtual world with the only way out being to beat all 100 levels, and if you die in the game, you die in real life. However, halfway through Season 1, Kirito finishes the game in an unexpected way. I was honestly surprised it was over that quick. What else could possibly happen in this season? We go from a death trap to fairies to guns and then back to fairies. There's a movie and then another 2 seasons. It just kept going. I absolutely love this series, but at the same time, I have an unexplainable rage towards it as well. Every time I talk about this to my friends, I immediately get frustrated. Sword Art Online by itself was a great premise, but the latest season has strayed so far from what it was even about. I wanted to make this video because I really did have hope for the series, but they tried doing too much. Like, it was trying to be serious, but at the same time had a whole harem going on. Kirito ends up with Asuna. Don't even get me started with her. But then has all these girls thrown at him. Like, that's not at all what I want to see. In this video, I'll break down what ruined SAO to me, but I'll still talk about the things I love about it. I'll break each season up into their own segments and briefly mention the movie towards the end. It's not super important, to be honest. Before we start though, I wanted to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog for a second. I know, this isn't even remotely related, but I wanted to mention this. I find it so ironic how Sonic fans have reacted to Sonic Racing Crossroads. Right after Mario Kart World was announced, everyone and their mother immediately gave up on Crossroads, saying that they've already lost. Every time something was leaked for the game, it was critiqued to no end. Yet, once the game was released to a few people, everyone quickly changed their minds, saying it was amazing. This is exactly what I mean when I say Sonic fans have no faith in the games. I understand that there have been terrible games in the past. I understand the need or want to be hesitant, but we have to be more open-minded. It's tiring watching all these people talk shit 24/7 about something Sonic related before it's even released. Why be a fan of something if you can only talk about the negatives? You can have criticisms towards things you like to help make them better, but hiding your hate for something behind that just isn't the move. I guess this sort of relates because I'm about to talk shit about SAO for 20 minutes, but not in a everything about this sucks and should never have been created, and more in a I love this so much, but this is what ruined it and how much better it could have been. I was originally going to have a full written script for this video, but since I'm taking so long on it, I decided to just read off bullet points. I'll have short ideas of what I want to talk about, but most of this video will pretty much be unscripted. Apologies if I ever repeat certain words too much. I tend to do that when talking straight from my head. This also means I might get a little more heated than usual since there are way too many things in this anime that piss me off. Anyway, let's start with Season 1. Before I actually start talking about the seasons, I want to mention that Season 1 and 2 both get split up halfway through, so Sword Art Online Season 1 has half of it being Sword Art Online and the other half is Alfheim Online, and then Sword Art Online 2, the first half is Gun Gale Online, and then the second half goes back to Alfheim Online. I'm not sure why they did it that way, because when they do it like that, it felt very rushed in certain parts. Like, I felt like we skipped over a lot of stuff. I'll mention that when talking about Sword Art Online, but they could have had the characters grow more in each season if each part was a full season instead of half of one. So, the basic summary for the first half of SAO is that our protagonist, Kirito, also real name Kazuto Kirigaya, puts on his nerve gear to play the new game that was released called Sword Art Online, which he was previously a beta tester for. This time he said he wants to go up the levels faster, and so he immediately, as soon as he joins, starts running towards the, I think first village, I don't remember what he said, but he was like so adamant on leaving the town of beginnings. And so another guy, his name Klein, who is later on Kirito's closest friend, he asks Kirito to help him since he seemed to know everything, and they become friends, and so they start practicing sword fighting, but it gets to a point where Klein has to log out, and when he wants to log out, the button is no longer there. So Kirito obviously is like, actually that's not supposed to happen. There should be like someone to call for help, right? And Klein goes, yeah, I actually did that already, but they're not answering. Weird. Everything's going weird, right? So that's when this bell starts ringing, and they all get teleported to the town square in Town of Beginnings. It's like 6,000 people, I think. Actually, no. 10,000 people are playing SAO. They all get teleported there, and the game master, Akihiko Kaiba, tells them, hey, so actually none of you are ever leaving, because if you die here, you're also gonna die in real life. You gotta beat the game though. Okay, bye. Like, what are we talking about right now? That's crazy. That is crazy. He also makes everybody's avatar look like they're a real life person, you know what I mean? So then, like, Kirito gets his little baby face and stuff, right? Already, crazy premise. Everyone's reactions when Akihiko Kaiba said, hey, yeah, you're all gonna die if you don't beat this game, was perfect. The first episode of SAO, perfect. It draws you in with this being a full dive virtual world, and then immediately pulls you in even more by saying, hey, yeah, actually, this is a death game now. What? That's crazy. That is crazy. I will be so real with you. A lot of SAO, at least the first half, a lot of it's filler, which makes sense because you're trying to learn the characters, right? So I guess there's like obviously things happen each episode, but one of the more important ones is when Kirito decides to not be a loner anymore, and he joins a guild called the Moonlit Black Cats. And for some reason, he thinks the smartest thing to do is not tell them he is 20 levels higher than them. He's level 40 while they're level 20. He never tells them. First of all, that's not how games work. You would be able to see what level each guild member is. Why would they make that a hidden feature? But long story short, they all go to this dungeon except one guy because he's buying a house for all of them. But Kirito and I think it was 4 other people, they all go to this dungeon and they find a secret room. Oh my goodness. Crazy. They open the door, there's a chest in the middle. Oh my goodness, jackpot, right? They are gonna be rich. Actually, it's a whole trap, and they all get ambushed. And since, with most games, you know, when you're playing with a group of people, it levels out the room. So it's not too easy, but it's also not too hard, you know what I mean? So, you know, since Kirito's 20 levels higher than everybody, it levels pretty high, probably level 30, 35. And they're still barely level 22, maybe. Which is not good for them, so they all die except Kirito. What? He just got 4 people killed? He's gonna have to have that on his conscience forever? And one of the girls was really important. Well, actually, it's the only girl in the group. She was important to Kirito's character because she said she was afraid of death, which is okay, everybody's afraid of death in this game, but she was important to him because he finally had someone he could, protect, and he wanted to help her and stuff feel stronger and not want to off herself, you know what I mean? So she's important to him, and later on during Christmas, there's this little boss event that's oh, if you get this item, you can revive someone when they die. Turns out it's only the first 10 seconds after they die. So he did all that for nothing, and he's just heartbroken about it. Also, the guy that they left behind to go buy that house, he kills himself. Anyway, enough with the very sad and depressing part right here. Let's talk about the whole harem that goes on in this. Okay, fine, sure, we can have a harem, but at the same time, I really don't care about harems. I never like them. I think they're kind of stupid. Whatever, right? So, he has 2 girls that want him plus Asuna, so that's 3 girls. We have Asuna, Silica, and Lisbeth. Silica was kind of weird. She seemed like she was going to be a love interest, but then turned out to be more like a younger sister kind of thing. But it was still, the whole episode with her is still kind of weird. What are we doing right now? Because like at first she seemed to have a crush on him, but then later on was like, oh, he seems like a big brother to me. Then what was all that going on? Anyway, with Lisbeth, she is a blacksmith, and so he goes to her because he wants a better sword than the one he already has. And so he ends up breaking the sword. That's her like masterpiece. So then they go on a whole quest to find like really special ore from a dragon. And just that one little adventure, that one, like the 2 days that they were together, she's like, oh my god, I'm in love with this guy. There's not a lot to like about this guy. He's such a loner, he's so quiet, what are we talking about? But okay, whatever. But she realizes that Asuna likes him, so then she backs off, and it's like, okay, whatever. You're not even that important then. But speaking of Asuna, I am gonna try so hard not to get super angry about this, because genuinely, I have so many mean things I could say about her. Asuna, when we first meet her, it was like episode 2. They party up to defeat the first boss of floor 1. She's portrayed as a loner, quiet type, just like Kirito. I'm like, okay, they're like perfect for each other then, right? 'Cause she's like trying to push him away and be like, no, you can't get too close to me, right? But she has a personality. She's not just some love interest, you know what I mean? She has something there that you could build off of. She has attitude towards him. She is a pretty skilled fighter, you know. She has good attributes to her. And I loved her in the second episode, right? And later on they work together again, and she still has that like sassy attitude, but she has like more of a softer feel to her when talking to Kirito, but not in a like I'm in love with this guy kind of way, but more in a okay, we can kind of be friends, right? Because they were always going at with each other. They were always at each other's throats. So seeing them like be kind of civil, it was nice. It was nice. But then later on, she loses all of that. She becomes the boring love interest that's just only thinking about him, and that's all she will ever be, is what it seems like. But she's still, she's still like, oh, I'm a good fighter, right? She's got that kind of attitude, but still completely loses her personality. Becomes the most insufferable character ever, and I have so many bad things I want to talk to her about. Like, I just genuinely, I hate her with my entire heart. I wish I didn't, but I do. I hate her. What's even worse is that when they first kissed in the anime, oh my god, I had mixed feelings. I don't even, because the way we got there was kind of interesting. So Kirito at one point, they both wanted to go on a little vacation from the Knights of the Blood Oath, which is Asuna's whole guild that she's part of, which she's second of command in, whatever. I don't care. She was asking, hey, can I take a break for like maybe a week? Because I don't know, she just didn't want to be front lines all the time. And Kirito's like, yeah, you should also let me have a break. We've been fighting back like over and over again for a couple months. Let us have that break. Heathcliff, which is the leader, he goes, yeah, okay, you could do that. If Kirito can defeat me in a duel. But he's like one of the most powerful people on that guild, and you want to go and duel Kirito. So they do the whole duel and everything, and Kirito loses, but he's all like, there's no freaking way he could have blocked my dual wielding. Of course he has dual wielding in this because he's the most powerful guy, right? Hold on. We'll put a pin in what I'm just talking about. Let's go on to his dual wielding for a second. Asuna and Kirito go and I think it was like floor 74 or something. They go in the dungeon where the boss is, and they're just going around I think they're trying to find it. I really don't remember. They're looking, they find the boss, they're like, holy shit, we cannot do this by ourselves, right? So they leave, and they're like shitting their pants, basically. They leave, they regroup, and then this guild, I forgot what they're called, but they're like a little lower level than the Knights of the Blood Oath. But this guild's like, hey, give me the map to the boss level, and we're gonna go beat him up. Kirito, instead of being like, hey, actually, I don't think you're strong enough, I think we need more than one guild, he's like, oh, for sure, and gives it to them. What? So as Kirito, Asuna, and later on Klein comes in with his little guild, they're just talking, and then all of a sudden they hear like screams of death, right? People are dying. So they run to the boss, and of course that guild goes in, and they're getting their asses beat. They're all pretty much dead. There's maybe like 5 people left, and there was maybe 20 at that point. So then Kirito's all like, oh shit, I guess we do have to fight this guy. No you don't. You can just get those people out of there, because usually the boss door closes once you go in, but for some reason this one stayed wide open, so they could have left. But no, they stayed, and Kirito was fighting the guy by himself, with Asuna sometimes, but pretty much by himself. And he is almost dead as hell, right? He's almost dead. He decides, this is a great time to use my hidden skill, because for some reason I have to be special. He pulls out another sword, starts dual wielding, and beating the shit out of that guy. What? So, turns out there are some skills that are special to certain people. I guess it's randomized or whatever. I don't know. Kirito's the only one that really has one in the beginning. I don't remember if anybody else had like special ones, but whatever. He's got dual wielding now. He wanted to keep it a secret for when it was important, but this was important, so ta-da! Anyways, back to the duel. Kirito uses his dual wielding. He almost gets Heathcliff, but then to Kirito, Heathcliff uses like inhumanely fast movements. Like genuinely nobody in the game can move that fast to block it, because Heathcliff has a giant shield. And so he's like, hey, that's fucking weird, but whatever. And so then Kirito has to join the Knights of the Blood Oath because he fucking lost. And so he has to go on like this little training mission with 2 other guys. This one guy's really bubbly and like looks like he'd give you good bear hugs, and then this other guy immediately gives off villain vibes just looking at him, and turns out he is a villain, and he was about to kill them both while they were out on their little retreat, because turns out he's also part of this murder group called the Laughing Coffin. They're gonna come up a lot later. So I'm pretty sure he kills the other guy and is almost about to kill Kirito, and then Asuna shows up, whatever, and then they're like, oh my god, I'm in love with you, and then they kiss, and it's stupid. I hate it. I hate it. I have nothing against straight relationships, but this one genuinely pisses me off to no end. Anyways, yada yada yada, skip some boring like slice of life stuff. Asuna and Kirito get married. They find this girl, whatever, she's like part of the system, and then he saves her in his little hard drive, whatever. It's a lot of stuff that started just building up on pissing me off. I don't know what it is about, like, I have nothing against Yui, but at the same time, Kirito's smart ass move being like, let me just use this little console and save her or whatever, that pissed me off. But we're on to the final fight. Floor, I think 76. They're about to fight the boss, or actually, it's after they fought the boss. 15 people died, I'm pretty sure, and a lot of them were like pretty much close to death. And so Heathcliff is there, right? Of course he is. And Kirito thinks, this is the perfect moment to, test my theory right now. So Kirito goes in and tries to attack Heathcliff, but this message comes up and it says immortal object, which happens when you hit things that aren't alive. So anytime they would hit like the floor or the walls or whatever, it would say that, like that little bar would pop up, whatever. Kirito had this suspicion already when he had that duel with him, but he had it even more when Heathcliff had the most health out of everybody. That's suspect to him, right? So then So then Kirito goes, "You're Akihiko Kaiba, aren't you?" And then Heathcliff like, "Shoot, gets out the bag, you got me, right?" What? Because Kirito goes, no developer would make a game like this and not play it himself. Because watching someone play a game that you made, or just watching someone play a game in general, is pretty boring when you want to play it. So Heathcliff gives Kirito an ultimatum. He said, "If you kill me right now, if you defeat me right now, everybody who is left in this game will get released, and they don't have to get to the 100th floor. But if you lose, I am going to the 100th floor, because I'm the boss up there, and you guys still have to stay here, and you're probably going to be dead." So Kirito's like, "Oh, for sure, I'll do that. Don't worry, I'll fight you." And so they start fighting. Kirito losing pretty bad, like he's on the verge of death. Because he already was, but he's on the verge of death now. And, before this fight, Kirito tells Heathcliff, he says, "If I do lose, though, you have to make it so Asuna cannot commit after I die. You can't let her do it." Crazy request, but also, okay. He's like, "Okay, for sure, I'll do that." But once Kirito's about to get hit with the final blow that's gonna end him, and everybody still has to fight, right? Somehow, because Heathcliff had paralyzed everybody so that nobody could help Kirito. Somehow, some way, Asuna, she's able to move, blocks the attack, and dies. What? What are we doing right now? I know there's an OVA that like tried to explain how she had this necklace that would let her move it with paralysis, but still. What? What are we doing? And so then, with the love of his life dead, Kirito just does not even try in his fight anymore, and he lets Heathcliff kill him. But from what I'm assuming, because Kirito gave that one item that would bring you back after the first, in the first 10 seconds if you die, it would bring you back. In my heart, I feel like Klein used that to then bring Kirito back, because how else would he have come back other than that? There's no way he could have had some fighting force against the system other than that item. Anyways, he comes back and he defeats Heathcliff with one blow somehow. And then he still dies though? I don't even know. So then they're sitting off watching the sunset. Asuna's still there too somehow. And then Akihiko Kaiba shows up. And Kirito goes, "Hey, so why the fuck did you put us through all this?" And Akihiko Kaiba says, "I don't know." "You don't know why you put everyone through a death trap? You were just bored? What are we doing?" But then Kirito wakes up and he's in the hospital. And that's the first part of season 1. Not even done with season 1 yet. The first part of season 1 will probably be the longest I talk about, since it's the one it's based off the name, it's the most important one for the franchise. I have a lot of things I could say about this that I haven't said yet, but I don't want to start yelling. The whole premise of SAO was so good. A death trap in a virtual world. The only way to get out is to be all 100 floors, and you die in the game, you die in real life. I love that. That is so cool. But then it went to shit. I don't even know what they were trying to do. They didn't have a set story until the last 5 episodes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, actually, this is the bad guy." What are we doing? Asuna's character got ruined. The whole harem is stupid. Kirito's character has somewhat potential too, but he's also just the generic anime guy. So then you're like, oh my god, this kind of sucks. And Asuna, oh my god, Asuna should have died at the end. I don't care if this makes me seem like a bad person, Asuna, it would have been so much more impactful to Kirito's character and to the story if Asuna did not survive. She could have haunted the whole narrative, and it would have been so much better than her still being here. But then again, I don't even know what the plot would be after that with Alfheim Online, because she's a pretty important part of that story. So there are so many moves they could have made, but they made so many wrong moves instead of the right ones. So I'm not entirely sure fully how they could have rewritten this, maybe made this more of an action than like slice of life and romance, because we just didn't spend that much time with the fighting, and the whole thing is an RPG. I want to see more of that, not of Kirito's whole harem or whatever. So the second half of season 1, we get introduced to Kirito's cousin, which he also says is his sister since they grew up that way, because his parents died. I don't remember how. I don't even know if they say, but his aunt adopted him, and so they grew up as siblings and not like cousins, you know. For some reason, the writer thought, I feel like there isn't enough incest in this anime. Why don't we put that in here? Kirito's cousin, also known as Sugua, has feelings for him. You guys are blood related? What are we talking about right now? What do you mean you have feelings for him? I don't even know, man. And she always says, "Oh, I'm so over it though. I don't even like him like that." Yes, you do. The things I've seen you do, yes, you do like him. The whole plot of this part of the season is 300 out of the 6,000 people that survived didn't wake up. They're still in a virtual world, or they're just still asleep, whatever, right? Of course, Asuna is one of those people, because she didn't die, right? She's one of those 300 people that's asleep still. So, part of Kirito's morning routine or whatever, he would visit her in the hospital. And so, one time that he does visit, Asuna's dad and this guy named Sugo are there. And Asuna's dad's like, "Oh, I gotta step out for a second." And Kirito and Sugo are just left in that room. And this is where it gets weird. It's already weird with Kirito and Sugo, but Sugo says, "Hey, so actually we're engaged, and Asuna's gonna be mine, and I'm gonna be freaky towards her and snip her hair, and you can never come back here. Don't ever come back here, or I will do something bad." What are we doing? What are we doing right now? So obviously Kirito's heartbroken about this, and he leaves and goes back home and is just crying in his room. And then that's when Sugua gets kind of weird and way more lovey than a cousin should be, you know. She's saying some stuff about the person you love, and then she's also in her mind talking about the person she loves, which is Kirito, you freak. Anyways, fast forward a little bit. Aegil, which was one of the characters from the first part of the season, he's a minor character, kind of like Klein. He I don't remember, I think he emails Kirito saying, "Hey, I got something you need to look at," right? So he goes to his bar, and Aegil's like, "Hey, look at this picture," right? It's freaking Asuna in this other game called Alfheim Online, and she's in this bird cage. So then Kirito, after maybe a month or two after defeating SAO, was like, "Okay, let's go back in VR." Were you not just traumatized from that? What do you mean going back? I don't care how much you love this girl. What do you mean you're going back? So in Alfheim Online, there are different elf races. This is with the fairies, right? They're different elf races though, and of course Kirito picks the most edgy looking one, which is the Spriggan. And so when he spawns in, he's supposed to spawn in a Spriggan territory village, but instead the system throws him in some random forest, which of course has people fighting in it. And what do you know, one of the people is Lifa, which is actually his cousin, but they don't know. They somehow don't know. They are both talking to each other in the game. They're talking to each other, but somehow they don't recognize each other. Because, like, Leafa looks completely different from Sugua, because obviously they're not doing, like, the full facial scan like they did in SAO. But are they not using your voice? Do they, like... This is what I'm talking about. I don't know. They sound exactly the same as when they are, in the real world compared to the virtual world. They sound the exact same in both worlds. Is this like Miraculous Ladybug, where they somehow can't tell that they sound like each other, even though they've never even changed their voices? They sound the exact same. Anyways, they never figure that out until later on. And so a lot of this part of the season is exploring Alfheim Online, and it's actually pretty interesting, with the flying mechanics and stuff. A whole lot of nothing happens in this part too. I could say this about the entire franchise. A whole lot of nothing happens, but at some point, Leafa, I'm gonna call Sugua Leafa from now on, because I'm not saying her name, since they usually don't mention her actual name anyways, but Leafa gets a crush on Kirito, his avatar, and then later on at some point, I think it's like right when they're at the World Tree. Oh my god, I didn't even tell you. So, the whole point of Alfheim Online is to get to the top of the World Tree so that the race, the fairy race that gets there first, can have infinite flying for their entire race. Since there's like a timer on or whatever. But it's only for that race. So, like, say you have two different races and they're helping each other get to the top. Whoever gets there first between the two of them gets it for their entire race. Not both of them, just one of them. Crazy. Anyways, this is when Leafa and Kirito get to the base of the World Tree, and also Yui's here. I didn't mention that either. Yui's here as a little fairy, helpful, whatever. But Yui goes, I can feel mommy up there, because of course she calls them mommy and daddy, because like she's pretty much their kid. But this is when Kirito mentions Asuna, like verbally says Asuna's name, and that's when Leaf was like, oh shit, you gotta be kidding me right now. This is my cousin right now. And then they're both like, cause Leafa goes, she says Kazuto, and he's like, excuse me, how'd you know my name? And then he's like, oh my god, Suhua. And then they both leave the game, and then they talk in person, and it's just the most uncomfortable conversation I've ever seen, because she's talking about her feelings towards him again, and he's just kind of sitting there, and it's terrible. I'm gonna skip over that a little bit. They make up, don't worry. But then Kirito finally makes it to the top of the World Tree, but that's when they realize, hey, so actually, I don't think anybody was ever meant to get up here, because there's no giant castle, there's nothing up here. By the time Yui and Kirito find Asuna, they also run into Sugo, which is actually King Oberon of Alfheim Online, because his company owns Alfheim Online, of course. So this is where it gets really weird, and I hate everything about it. Kirito is basically forced to watch Sugo be a real freak, like genuinely, what are we doing kind of freak to Asuna. But of course, while Kirito is like, thinking, oh my god, this is the end, like I don't want to even be alive right now kind of stuff, he gets talked to by the ghost of Akihiko Kaiba. I can't even make this up anymore. What are we doing? It's not necessarily a ghost, more like his conscience that he uploaded, but like still, why? But he basically tells Kirito not to give up and whatever. So Kirito somehow breaks free from, like, he was basically paralyzed too, but more like his whole body was just being pulled to the ground with this new magic that they were gonna introduce later on. But he fights through it, and then he logs in with Akihiko Kaiba's, login, so then he has the most power in the game, and then this happens every single time. Later on when I talk about the movie, you'll see what I mean. He just he's almost a Mary Sue, whatever the guy version is of that. Like, he could just never do no wrong. He's always the most powerful. He always has the special abilities, whatever. Like, I genuinely, it pisses me off. But Kirito turns the pain from like 2 to 10, which means somehow it's gonna do damage to your real life body. I don't even know how that would work. And then he beats the shit out of Sugo and then finally logs Asuna out. And later on, when Kirito, he logs out too, then he goes to Asuna. He had like a whole like fist fight in the parking lot with Sugo, but it's not that important. And so then they finally reunite in real life. Yay! But before Kirito logs out, he was talked to by Akiko Kaiba, because of course he was, and then Akiko Kaiba tells Kirito, hey, here's this egg, and it can make a bunch of games if you let it out to the world. Okay, bye. Okay. And that's where the first season ends. A whole lot of nothing happens, in my opinion. But that's just this entire series, a whole lot of nothing. Again, I still don't know how I feel about Asuna surviving. It would have been so much more detrimental to Kirito if she didn't. And definitely more interesting, because I don't like her. But season 1 had a good first episode, and then it just kept going downhill. And somehow this series got enough praise from people that they made a second season. Before we talk about that though, I want to mention the music, because if there's one thing they can do right, it's make music, because they have Lisa for the first opening with Crossing Field. Oh my god, it is so peak. It just encapsulates 2012 so well, just the vibes and everything about it. I love it so much. And all the other ones, I can't remember the names of them right now, but all the other songs for SAO are so good. Like, every single opening, every single ending, they never missed on those ones. And I listen to them all the time, ever since I first heard them. So, just like the first season, Sword Art Online 2 is split into 2 parts, because of course it is. I genuinely, if they didn't split it, I wish they didn't split it up. I don't remember if I mentioned this, but there would have been so much more depth and so much more time with the characters for me to actually care about them when bad things do happen, and it would have felt more fleshed out and a lot less rushed than it was. But you know what? The first part of Sword Art Online 2 is one of my favorites. It just is so well written, for the most part. With the whole death gun situation, and how he's killing people in-game and then they die in real life. They brought that back, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be crazy, right? You know what? It kind of was crazy. So, this all happens in a new game called Gun Gale Online, and at first we follow a new character. Her name is Shinon Asura. I think that's her name. But her username is Sinon, and that's what I'm going to say from now on. But her story is that she is actually a really good sniper in the game, like one of the top people. But in real life, she had actually shot someone before, because this guy was like robbing a bank that she was at with her mom, and the guy drops his gun, and so her logic was, oh my god, I gotta stop this guy. So then she takes his gun and shoots him. And for some reason, everybody in there, including her mom, were freaking the hell out because she did that. And I mean, okay, valid, she just shot someone, but she also saved your guys' life, so why are we belittling her and outcasting her and stuff? Why are we doing that? But the whole thing is, Kirito is told by this one company, I don't even remember, they approached him before in the first season, but they never show that until this one. But this guy tells Kirito to investigate the game because he doesn't want people dying, and I was like, okay, cool. So Kirito is an investigator, and For some reason, when he logs into the game, because he used the same login and stuff from other games, which apparently they could do, it like saves all your stuff or whatever, but just transfers it to a different game. Anyway, for some reason, he looks like a girl, and he rolls with that so that he can get Sinon to help him. I don't know what his thought process was in that, because she does eventually find out, and she's like rightfully mad about it. So, but before that happens, Sinon helps him like pick out basic gear and stuff, and it's so crazy. You know, this game is all about guns, right? There's no way Kirito would pick something other than a gun, right? No, he picks a lightsaber. That's what I'm gonna call it, because that's what it is. He picks out a lightsaber. Because of course he does. He can't play a gun game and use guns. He has to use a sword. I'm gonna be real with you right now, though. I am gonna kind of breeze past Sword Art Online 2 and the movie and a little bit of Alicization, because for one, I remember them the least, and two, again, a whole lot of nothing happens, so there's not that much I can tell you without just telling you minor things that aren't that important, you know what I mean? But Kirito and Sinon's relationship in this season is kind of interesting. Like, she's not head over heels for the guy, which is refreshing. I think that's probably why I like her. I mean, she eventually does kind of have it, because we have to have this whole harem go on, but she's like, she's what Asuna wants to be, you know what I mean? Like, actually a tough girl who can do stuff for herself, doesn't have to have help from a guy all the time, doesn't always think about a guy. She's just her own person, and that's probably why she's one of my favorite characters. She is interesting, unlike Asuna. Okay, but they actually work really well together, but they join this tournament called Bullets of Bullets that happens every year, and that's how they're gonna find Death Gun. And spoiler alert, Death Gun is part of Laughing Coffin, the whole murder guild from SAO, the first one. And little stop here, I want to talk about Laughing Coffin a little bit. I wish it was more of a threat than it is, because they show up one time in SAO. I mean, in the first part. They show up in the first half, they don't show up in the second half, then they show up in the first part of SAO 2, and they don't show up after that, and then they don't show up again until Alicization, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember them being in the movie, so they're not as huge of a threat as they sound like they would be, being the murder guild and all. But Sinon has a childhood best friend who, spoiler alert, is actually brothers with someone from Laughing Coffin, and his brother, and I think one other person, I can't quite remember, they are all running the Death Gun account, and they are all killing people because I'm pretty sure their dad owns a hospital or works at a hospital. So they're taking syringes full of, I think it was a drug that like stops your heart or something, I don't really remember. They're taking those just so they can kill people. I don't even remember their motive, and it's probably something really stupid. They don't find all of this out until after Bullets of Bullets. And Sinon's friend, he comes over to congratulate her on her win, but he's also a huge creep, because we don't have enough creeps in this anime apparently. So he actually is in love with her and didn't want his brother to kill her. So he's like, oh my god, I should just come over and, protect her or whatever. And right before Bullets of Bullets ended, Kirito told Sinon who he was, and then she did the same, and they told each other their address, right? Or at least Sinon told him her address so that he could go over to her to make sure that everything's okay because of Death Gun and stuff, right? And so, of course, the savior that Kirito is, he busts down the door and saves Sinon from her freaky ass friend, but he does get hit with the syringe in the process. But since Kirito this whole time was being monitored at a hospital, he has those little sticky pads that monitor your heart rate and stuff, so it was still on him, so he's fine. But Sinon like, finally, the whole season, you see that she is trying to get over her PTSD with holding a gun, because in the beginning, she couldn't even hold one in real life without vomiting, but by the end, she was actually able to hold one and shoot one. So I say that's a win. There's a short little break between the first part of SAO 2 and the second part with Asuna, where they just go on a whole adventure in Alfheim Online to get Excalibur, and it was that one, for real, is filler. Nothing cool happens, except like the sword skill switch or something that they say. They just basically back to back using sword skills is what they show off, and that's it. Not important. And also not important, Asuna's story. I really didn't care about it, and I'm probably not going to tell you that much about it because it's not important. The only important thing is that Asuna gets a new sword skill by the end of it, but basically, Asuna finds this new girl, I think her name's Yuki, and they become close, and then Asuna finds out that she's actually really sick, but she doesn't really show that in-game, because why would she? And they go on a whole little quest for something. I think it was like, their whole quest was to get their party name to be on this like mural for defeating one of the levels in Aincrad, because Kirito had Alfheim Online put Aincrad in there because of course. So every time a party would clear a floor, their name would be engraved in this like Hall of Fame basically. That was their whole quest, and she wanted to do it before she died. And I don't remember if they did or not. I think they did, or they were just barely too late. I don't really care. It did make me cry when I did watch it, but I don't care because it has Asuna. Now, I'll try and tell you the Sword Art Online movie as best I can. I think that the subheading was Ordinal Scale. So basically, they created augmented reality now, so they have AR like goggles, and it kind of explores a little bit of it before we get into the whole like game part of it. And so basically, this guy who was really close to Akiko Kaiba creates this. I think he created the augmented reality goggles, but he creates this and has a game that later on starts having bosses from SAO show up, and he's doing this because his daughter was actually one of the people that did not make it in SAO. And he's trying to collect all of these memories people have from being in SAO to scrounge up any possible scraps that they might have of ever seeing that girl. And at the same time, there's also this almost Vocaloid kind of star. She's a hologram who is a spitting image of his daughter because she actually wanted to be, I think, a singer. So she's also really popular, and he's going to put everybody's memories into her so that he can always have his daughter, but only in augmented reality. So it's like, oh, what are we doing, right? And of course, she had like a best guy friend, and he gets betrayed in the end because he has the most memories of her. So obviously his mind's gonna get probed for all that. And when your memories get taken from that time, you get hospitalized. And we see that happen with Klein and I think a few other people that we might know. But all the like battles are really hard on Kirito because he's actually moving, right? Instead of being in a game. So doing all of that actually tires you out. You feel like sluggish and stuff after a while. And he was not used to that. But basically near the end of the movie, a bunch of people from SAO get trapped in the stadium because they were told that the Vocaloid girl was going to be there and performing and stuff, but turns out there's actually going to be a bunch of monsters from SAO in there, and they're going to get their memories taken from them, right? And I don't remember how, like, I think they were able to actually use the full dive with the augmented reality headset thing. I don't even know. What are we doing? But they go into like they go into VR. I think they talk to this lady or whatever. She helps them, like they're like passed out in the stadium, but then their avatars show up for other people through the augmented reality. And then Kirito, of course, is the most powerful being there, and he just one-shots every single boss because that's such a fun way to end this, right? And the dad that made all of this happen, I think he ran away or shut it down or something. I don't even remember. But everybody got their memories back and everything's fine. This movie didn't add that much, but it also kind of did because later on they used the augmented reality stuff in Alicization, mainly so they can see Yui. But this movie was good. It was cool. It was different. It was interesting, right? But it didn't add that much to the story either. So you can watch it if you want to, but it's not like mandatory in the timeline to understand things. You know what I mean? Alicization is where they stray so far from the original story that it doesn't even, like, it feels like Sword Art Online, but it doesn't at the same time. Because instead of using full dive VR, they create some bullshit, is what they create. They say that the game that they play is actually just all in their head, using their soul, which they call floodlights, because your soul emits light from your brain. I don't even know how I remember that, but like, I think it's just so astonishing that they create something like that. It just stuck to me. But Kirito show like him being a kid in this world that seems real but is actually just a game, and there are small things that point to it. And he's friends with this guy named Yu-Gi-Oh! And this girl named Alice. Don't even get me started on her. But there's a whole order of people. Like I forgot the knights are called, but they're really important. And then there's also this like main girl that's taking care of everything. But these are all NPCs. Every single person that Kirito talks to in this, not real. They are actually artificial floodlights, aka artificial souls, artificial people. These NPCs have such deep emotions and thoughts and feelings and everything that they seem real, but they aren't. They've never been outside of the virtual world that they are in. This is getting crazy. This is getting so much more complex than it needs to be. But basically, Kirito, while out with Asuna one time, he gets poisoned by Laughing Coffin. Oh my god, they came back, right? Just some random guy, part of Laughing Coffin, poisons him. And so then Asuna has to take him to those same doctors and that same guy that told him to like investigate Death Gun, because they are the ones that like know that technology with the whole soul stuff. And so they put him into that world because that's the only way they can keep him alive for some reason. And usually when they go in, like when Kirito goes into this world, he has no memory of it when he wakes up. He is a completely different person in the game than he is in real life. Like, he still has his attributes of being Kirito, but he doesn't remember anything that ever happens. So this time, when he actually goes in, he remembers that this isn't real, that this is a game, and he's confused on why everybody's acting like they do. And so he finally meets up with Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, but he's a lot older than when they were kids. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not remember him at all. And Alice is no longer there. She got taken away by the Knights because she crossed the line between like the normal world and like the dark underworld or something. I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, she got taken away, and then Yu-Gi-Oh! Just stayed in their little town. And he has like, each person in the village has their, I guess, like lifetime goal. And Yu-Gi-Oh's was to cut down this big ass pine tree. Like, I'm talking, this is the biggest thing you'll ever see in your life, and it's not even real. His goal was to cut it down, and he had been doing it for like 10 years, and he barely even made a dent in that thing. And so Kirito's all like, oh, I can help you, don't worry. And he's still thinking like this is a game and nothing's real. And at one point, Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Have to help this girl that's from the village because she went to go looking for something that would help them, I think. And then she ends up getting captured by a bunch of goblins. And this is when Kirito realizes, I think this is more than just a game, because when he's fighting those goblins, so normally in SAO, when you get like, I don't know, like your arm cut off or something. It's like pixels and like kind of like triangle shapes, and it's not like you're not actually bleeding, and it doesn't look all that gory. It looks fake because it's a game, so that makes sense. But in this one, in Alicization, there's actual blood. And I feel like they did this because they were just tired of doing all that fake shit all the time. So they're like, let's have them actually get hurt in this. So Kirito, I think he gets like something, he gets cut or something. I don't even remember. But he gets hurt, and then so does Yu-Gi-Oh! But he really, like, Kirito realizes, hey, that actually fucking hurts, right? But he still saves Yu-Gi-Oh! And then the girl's like, hey, we can actually heal him with this spell. And then she says like system call or something, and then that's when Kirito's like, they really don't know that this is a game. They think this is all magic. They think this is all what magic sounds like, and not like just casting a spell or whatever. Anyways, Yu-Gi-Oh's fine, and then they get the bright idea of using this sword because it has like more damage points or whatever. I forgot what it was called. I'm forgetting a lot of things because I haven't watched this in like 3 years. But they use this sword, and they are finally able to cut down this big ass tree. So then after you like finish a lifetime goal, I really don't remember what it's called. After they finish one, they get to pick a new one. And so Yu-Gi-Oh says, hey, I want to be a knight, like Kirito is supposed to be, because Kirito lied about his little lifetime goal. And so then they go to main town, and it's been 2 years in the game. 2 years later. I don't remember how long it's been in real life, maybe like a few weeks, but it's been 2 years in the game. Kirito's lived in there for 2 years is what it feels like to him. And I just want to take this time to talk about Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! And with my whole heart, I'm saying this not because I want to make everything queer. I don't want to make everything gay. But you cannot tell me nothing happened between the two of them. There are so many things in this anime that are portrayed exactly or pretty similar to how they're portrayed with Asuna. So in the first opening for SAO, at the very end, Asuna and Kirito's swords are crossed. At the very end, right? Guess whose swords are crossed in this new opening? That's right, Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh's. When Asuna died in the first game, quote-unquote died, in the first game, he was devastated. He was crying, he was sad, and even when he saw her again, he was literally bawling his eyes out. Spoilers, I know you don't care, but spoilers, when Yu-Gi-Oh dies, Kirito does the exact same thing. Normally he does not weep as hard as he does when one of his friends or, kind of acquaintances dies. He was full on bawling his eyes out, holding on to Yu-Gi-Oh. And I know, like, okay, sure, it could have been like, it's this because he's known him for 2 years, same with Asuna. They shared so much time together, just like him and Asuna did. That's kind of gay, okay? That's kind of gay. And you know what? One day I need to draw ship art of them, because there are people, it's not just me, there are people online that have drawn ship art of them. So you can't say I'm making everything gay when it's not just me, okay? Again, a whole lot of nothing happens. There's stuff that happens outside of the game too with Asuna, and it's just so boring but also so interesting at the same time. I think my delusions of Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh being together helped me get through this anime, but again, a whole lot of nothing happens. We find out that Alice was turned into one of the knights too, and was like kind of brainwashed by the main girl. Like, I forgot what she's called, but she's almost like she knows all of the system commands, and she's just the all-powerful girl there. So but she's not real like Alice and Yu-Gi-Oh. She is a artificial floodlight, but she has so much like spatial awareness, and the fact that this is a game, she knows this is not real. She knows this is a game. But Kirito tries fighting her and almost wins, but I think he loses an arm, and then he gets trapped in there for I don't even know how many years, but like he genuinely becomes disabled for some reason. He's just so out of it. it's genuinely like talking to a husk of a person is what he is. And apparently there is this whole war that's about to happen with the like light and dark sides. And so then that happens. This was the most recent that came out. I don't even remember when it came out, but it was pretty recent. I want to say between 2022 and 2023. I watched it one time, and I don't know if I ever will watch it again. But they win the war because of course they do. Kirito becomes not a husk of a person at one point, and I think a lot of it was because of Yujiro. He comes back again because, oh my goodness, at the end, after the whole war, Kirito and Asuna, because they like brought in a bunch of the people from the world, Kirito and Asuna are talking to each other, and Kirito's like, what if we just live the rest of our lives here? Like, we don't even live in the real world anymore, we just live here. And so then Yuji's fucking ghost or something comes out and tells him, hey, actually, you should go live in the real world with Alice too. What are we talking about? What do you mean? What do you mean Alice in the real world? Guess who shows up in the real world? That's right, Alice in this robot body. They created a whole android. This is literally Detroit Become Human now. They created a whole android for Alice so that she could see the real world. What? And that's where it ends, but it shows that there's gonna be more. It had like a little text at the end saying, Sword Art Online will be back or something. I don't want any more. I'm tired of this. This has gone on way longer than it needed to be. It never got any better. The only thing that got better was the animation quality and Bryce Papenbrook putting in the work for Kirito. Everything else, the story, the plot, that's the same thing. The plot, the writing, the pacing, everything just never got better. The whole harem thing never got better. You have a whole girlfriend and you still got girls throwing themselves at you and you really don't do anything about it? Kirito, what are we doing? Sword Art Online is a great example of pushing out content for something that doesn't need any more. I seriously don't know how they kept this show going. The writing never got better, the characters didn't seem to change at all, and there were never any stakes. Sure, the first season had a few people that we knew die, but they weren't as memorable as the main cast. There was nothing to lose. Kirito was always the all-powerful character in every situation. Even with all of this bogging the anime down, I couldn't stop watching more. I can't even tell you how many times I rewatched season 1 and 2. Even if I hate to say it, SAO is one of my comfort anime, and I will probably continue to consume content for it, and that's okay. Even if the content for it is terrible, that's okay. I feel like we should all have a guilty pleasure no matter how terrible or cringe the piece of media is. If there are people out there that genuinely like this anime and find nothing wrong with it, that's okay. I'm not going to hate on someone who likes something I dislike, unless it's weird and problematic. Keep liking what you want. We only live once, so why not do things we like? Thank you so much for listening to me rant about this terrible anime. I'm so sorry this video took me so long. I just never had the energy to write, even though I so badly wanted to talk about this. I've had this video idea on my mind for years, and I'm glad I was finally able to get my thoughts out there. I'm not sure what I'll make next or when I'm going to post again. I've gotten super busy lately and haven't been interacting with fandoms as much. Maybe in the future I can talk about my own characters, but for now I'll keep brainstorming ideas of what I should talk about next. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you in a few.